In the dim lamplight of Victorian London, shadows danced along the cobbled streets, whispering secrets of dread and intrigue. Among them lurked a figure shrouded in mystery, a man of unearthly agility and an unsettling penchant for terror, Spring-Heeled Jack. But who was he? A figment of urban legend, a theatrical prankster, or something darker, something supernatural? This tale is one that has captivated minds for generations, and as we delve deeper into the legend of Spring-Heeled Jack, you might find yourself questioning everything you thought you knew about him. Stay with us, and you'll discover not just the facts, but the pulse of fear that thrummed through the streets and the people of London in his wake. Our story begins in the early 19th century, a period when fog rolled through the streets like a ghostly veil, shrouding the dark alleys and hidden corners of London. The Industrial Revolution was transforming Britain. The once picturesque landscape was being engulfed by factories, smoke, and an ever-growing population. But juxtaposed with this progress was a rising tide of fear of the unknown, fear of being hunted in the shadows. Into this whirlwind of uncertainty sprang the legend of Spring-Heeled Jack. Reports began to surface in 1837, claiming that a phantom figure with a glinting devilish face was prowling London, leaping great distances to terrorize unsuspecting victims. Imagine walking home late at night, your heartbeat quickening with every echoing footstep behind you, only to face a creature who could spring 3 times your height, mocking your dread with supernatural ease. But who was this Jack? And what motivated his reign of terror? Historians have debated the origins of the character, but time has infused his story with layers of myth and intrigue, leaving us to ponder, is he fact, or something conjured from the depths of our collective imagination? One thing is certain, the first recorded sighting occurred in the month of February, when a young woman named Mary Stevens was accosted in Clapham Common. According to her account, as she walked home, Jack leapt from the shadows, his eyes glowing eerily in the night. He cornered her, and while she screamed in terror, he did something unexpected. Instead of causing physical harm, he simply laughed and vanished into the darkness, bolting away with unsettling speed. Did you catch that? He laughed. What kind of monster laughs in the face of fear? The report sent shockwaves through London. What could possibly possess a man to behave so erratically, so cruelly? Authorities were baffled, and the press feasted on the story, depicting him as a devilish figure, a symbol of urban dread. Within weeks, accounts began to proliferate, and Londoners exchanged stories of near misses and narrow escapes, feeding the fear and intrigue surrounding this ghastly figure. Night by night, frightened citizens gathered in apartments to share these tales over flickering candles, the shadows growing larger as they spoke of this paranormal predator. The myth was evolving, transforming Spring-Heeled Jack from mere mischief maker to a sinister specter capable of heightening the anxieties of the day. But what came next would only stoke the flames of legend. The newspapers chronicled increasingly bizarre events, children reportedly attacked, young women assaulted in the street, and eyewitness reports describing his eerie ability to leap from one rooftop to another, and at frightening speeds. Each account fed into the emerging hysteria, and with it came a desperate question: who could stop him, or was he truly unstoppable? Could a mere man possess such supernatural abilities, or was this just an elaborate hoax? You might be wondering how someone could concoct such tales. What if Jack was merely a facade? A prankster hiding in plain sight? This, too, is a possibility we will explore. Throughout this tempest of speculation, one peculiar incident catapulted Spring-Heeled Jack into infamy. In 1843, an account emerged from a gentleman named John H., who claimed he had encountered the creature himself. According to him, while walking through the dark streets, he saw Jack emerge from an alleyway, cloaked in black. With piercing red eyes, he leaped over John effortlessly, landing on the opposite side with a theatrical flair. Notably, Jack was described as wearing a tight-fitting suit, resembling something one might find on a stage. Was it a costume? But frivolity turned dreadful as John noticed the figure turn and confront him with a sharp grin, exuding a sense of playful malice. The conversation that followed was unsettling, as Jack allegedly taunted John before bounding away, gleeful in his triumph. The audacity! What would compel a man, or what might appear to be one, to play such cruel games? As if this weren't enough, witnesses began to stir the pot with tales of Jack's supernatural abilities. They claimed he could breathe fire. A creature who could strike terror into the hearts of men yet also evoke wonder, mimicking the heroes of mythic legends. Was this the arrival of a new kind of devil or the echo of a playful spirit unsettling society's norms? It's easy to dismiss these accounts as fabrications or the exaggerations of frightened minds, but consider this: experiences rife with adrenaline have a way of distorting reality. The human brain, wired for survival and prone to delusion in stressful situations, can craft elaborate stories that might hide a kernel of truth. So could Spring-Heeled Jack simply be a man, highly trained in the art of acrobatics, capitalizing on his extraordinary skills to amuse himself at the expense of the populace? Or was he indeed a supernatural presence, as the public frenzy seemed to imply? By now, you might be asking yourself, what's the consensus among the historians? And it's here we dive deeper into the captivating timeline of Spring-Heeled Jack. On one hand, skeptics suggest that reports of Spring-Heeled Jack were simply manifestations of a growing societal tension. They argue that in an era marked by economic difficulty and rapid urbanization, fears and rumors coalesced into grand tales, lending credence to a figure that could be explained away as simply a man, perhaps a disguised acquaintance who enjoyed the chaos his antics created. However, the more fanciful among us contend that Jack was not of this world. Many pointed their fingers at local aristocrats, speculating that he was, in fact, a demonic figure bringing mischief and malevolence to the unsuspecting townsfolk. The allure of viewing Jack as something otherworldly grew stronger against the backdrop of social strife, a scapegoat for society's anxiety. Even more perplexing is the remarkable persistence of Jack's legend. Over the decades, he evolved with the times. In the late 19th century, reports persisted of odd happenings, even suggesting episodes involving strange creatures or unexplainable phenomena across various locales in Britain. What was once a localized nightmare had now bled into the cultural lexicon of the nation. Could he be adapting, shifting, and growing alongside the fears of every generation? Or was he simply an echo, rooted in the ancestral memory of a society grappling with the loss of its clarity? Tales of Spring-Heeled Jack started to adorn the pages of penny dreadfuls, popular literature of the time rife with sensationalism. These stories turned him from a terror lurking in the shadows to a protagonist of his own narrative. Jack became a likable rogue in some interpretations, embodying the voice of rebellion against a rigid, Victorian society that condemned spontaneity and creativity. With each retelling, the legend grotesquely grotesqued, charming new generations while still providing that unsettling tingle of fear. And speaking of fear, one particularly haunting twist in this tale arrives with the infamous Battle of Spring-Heeled Jack, wherein a group of locals in 1847 attempted to confront him. Armed with pitchforks and torches, they waited in the shadows, resolved to end his reign of terror. As the legend goes, a figure leaped defiantly into their midst, seemingly unbothered by the weapons wielded against it. Instead, he reveled in their terror. What happened next defies understanding. With incredible agility, Jack upped his game, leaping from their sight and vanishing into thin air, leaving only a lingering sensation of dread behind. But how? How does one engage with such a creature when human resolve falters in the face of legend? Isn't it challenging to perceive the line between reality and fantasy in such moments? The very existence of Spring-Heeled Jack seemingly transcended the mundane, giving frightening credence to those whispers in the dark. Where does the irrational end and reality begin? As we tread further into the depths of this enigma, we must confront whether Jack was a mere prankster, a tragic figure lost to the times, or a tangible entity that pervaded the consciousness of a fearful populace. What true horror lies behind a tale that weaves together fact and fantasy, mythos and history? But rest assured, the intrigue doesn't end here. Come back as we continue exploring the persistent tales entwined with Spring-Heeled Jack's legacy and seek deeper into the roots of mythical terror versus tangible truth, urging us to confront what we consider reality. The next twist is poised to take us into uncanny territory. Where do we draw the line between myth, urban legend, and the palpable fear that shapes our existence? What could possibly come next in this curious journey into the dark heart of lore? Now that we've set the stage, preparing to dive deep into the shadowy tendrils of Spring-Heeled Jack's mythos, it's important to consider how the very concept of a figure like Jack reflects our cultural fears and societal dynamics. What becomes clear as we peel back layers of legend is Jack's role as a trickster. Tricksters, in folklore, often embody chaos, a subversion of order that invites conflict, yet they ultimately reveal deeper truths about the communities they inhabit. If Spring-Heeled Jack symbolizes societal fear, could he also represent the specter of rebellion against the oppressive norms of Victorian society? His laughter echoing in the dimly lit streets becomes a testament to attention, the struggle between the constraints of societal expectations and the yearning for liberation expressed through acts of defiance. Consider the Victorian era itself, a period fraught with contradictions. A booming industrial economy and strict moral codes clashed with burgeoning social problems, from class disparity to the early stirrings of a burgeoning women's rights movement. Amidst these tensions, Jack assumed a dual role, both predator and provocateur, compelling society to confront its demons while also reflecting the unrest brewing just beneath the surface. In this way, Jack is not just a figure of terror, he embodies the uncertainty and fears ratcheting ever higher in a rapidly changing world. Yet, exploring Jack's character doesn't confine us merely to social interpretations. The ambiguity surrounding his origins has led to countless theories. Some contend he might have been an acrobat or a performer, a man employing his skills to invoke fear and merriment alike. Could he be the shadowy figure of a jilted lover, or a disgruntled former soldier? Urban legends often cling to fragments of truth. Perhaps somewhere in the annals of history lies a single man whose mischief inspired the legend, while other grains of fact have shifted, eroded by time and fear. Amidst this speculation, a peculiar episode from the 1860s further spun the web of intrigue. Sightings of Spring-Heeled Jack spread beyond the confines of London into the broader countryside. Victims reported him lurking in rural areas, where he was said to jump over hedges with such agility that an air of supernatural allure cloaked his antics. One particular detail struck fear into many hearts. Individuals claimed Jack left behind a chilling laugh that echoed through moonlit fields. Was his myth morphing with every retelling, or was he evolving into something altogether different, perhaps even more sinister? Conversations began to arise within both literary circles and social critiques regarding the implications of this figure. Plays and pamphlets portraying Spring-Heeled Jack bloomed across the capital and rivaled ghost stories, occupying a permanent seat among popular tales of horror. More than mere entertainment, these interpretations reflected an ongoing societal grapple with monstrous archetypes, pushing audiences to explore their own fears and guilt. Was Jack the embodiment of class tension, striking down those who practiced excess, or did he serve as a reminder of the lurking dangers that haunted the streets, muggers, thieves, and social upheaval? As the years surpassed their peaks, the sightings began to dwindle, yet Jack's presence lingered in the cultural consciousness. The raucous popularity of Spring-Heeled Jack had undoubtedly withered, but remnants of his tale shivered through British folklore and urban legends, infiltrating even the fog-ridden streets of the 20th century. Whether he was a man or monster turned into a metaphor of urban decay, he still provided an outlet for collective anxiety. By the late 1800s and early 1900s, reports of Jack had settled, but he was not without his dark imprints on history. During this time, there were mentions of occasional sightings, drawing parallels to the rise of new fears, industrialization, class divides, and the suffragette movement fueled anxiety around the nation as society struggled with modern identities. An unlikely renaissance of Spring-Heeled Jack began with the emergence of the detective genre in literature. the tales transition from newspaper sensationalism to works of fiction, enriching the character of Spring-Heeled Jack with deep layers. He transformed into a figure wherein Victorian curiosity merged with an exploration of the self, navigating morality in a world of possible chaos. Novels crafted rich tapestries wherein Jack found kinship with literary heroes, the very definition of heroic blurring as society attempted to reconcile the past with impending modernity. And so the legend continues to carve its space in media and literature, from novels to films depicting a swath of retellings, each blending terror and allure under the guise of Spring-Heeled Jack. The twisted audacity of a character who relishes instilling fear drew audiences, but perhaps more enticing was the potential discovery, the revelation within folklore that Jack, in his overarching fantasticality, prodded at unwrapped layers of human frailty, exposing vulnerability in a world confused with modernity. But what happens when the line between myth and reality blurs so seamlessly that our fears manifest as a response to the chaos around us? We must ask ourselves, is Spring-Heeled Jack a reflection of our inability to confront our darkness, or simply a reminder of how fear can be crafted, sustained, and morphed into a legend? In the mid-20th century, journalist and historian Keith Hooper expanded upon the Spring-Heeled Jack phenomenon, attempting to document sightings and categorize experiences. Yet the more he delved, the more he was met with myriad discrepancies and undiscovered whispers from individuals who claimed to have faced a hooded figure in the dead of night. Each story recast the legend while also spinning a web of fascination around the manifestation of fear. Was it imagination? Was it adolescence spilling into delusion? Or was there something truly lurking within shadowed corners of the unexpected urban sprawl? As time crawled onward, the nature of fear evolved, but the anxiety it incited remained a potent part of human existence. Spring-Heeled Jack remained relevant, even in the digital age. He graced blog posts, podcasts, and social media threads, reminding us that the interrogation of fear is both a timeless and contemporary narrative. Still, it is worth pondering the very essence of such stories that grip our hearts in dread. Perhaps the allure of Spring-Heeled Jack lies not solely in his eerie abilities but in how our fascination with horror intertwines with life, psychological entrapments, mysteries of the human psyche, and the nuances of how communities grapple with the inexplicable. Though reports of Jack have fallen off in recent decades, a symbol remains within his legend that glimmers in our collective consciousness as a reminder. While technology progresses and society shifts, the shadows will always hold mysteries that captivate. The stories that bind us and invoke primal fears hold a unique power in pushing us to confront humanity's greatest dilemmas: chaos and order, fear and bravery, horror and wonder. And so, we arrive at the crux of our journey through the legend of Spring-Heeled Jack. A figure that transcends the predictable boundaries of urban folklore, he invites us to traverse the thin veil between whimsy and dread, myth and reality, urging a conversation about the constructs of society, the mysteries of the human condition, and the narratives that continue to shape our existence. As we bid adieu to the figure of Spring-Heeled Jack, let us carry forward the echoes of that laughter that haunted the streets of Victorian London. Whether as an enduring allegory, a cautionary tale warning against unchecked madness, or a ghostly trickster performing under the cover of night, we are left armed by curiosity, eternally scanning the street corners in case our paths intersect. And in doing so, we find a piece of ourselves, for at the end of every tale, what truly remains is not the legend of what was, but the reflection of what lies within us all, our fears, our wonders, and the eternal quest for understanding in a world strewn with shadows.